Get on board the Bernier bus train. Come get on board the Bernier bus train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Go get on board the Bernier bus train. Good morning, USA, and welcome to another episode of the Bernie or Bust Show. You may be wondering why there's a chicken in our show today. It's a raging chicken. If you've ever heard of such a thing, a raging chicken is a chicken who cries out, crows out on behalf of progressive and other topics. Progressive topics and injustice. How's that? Raging chicken rages against injustice. Kevin Mahoney is the editor of Raging Chicken Press. He is a professor at Kutztown University. He's active in APSCUF, APSCUF, our teachers union, statewide, Pennsylvania statewide bargaining unit on behalf of coaches and faculty in the state system of higher education. And so Kevin has called attention to a number of issues and a number of good beers he talks about on his show. It's a good podcast that talks about a wide range of topics. I'm here to suggest to Kevin that the chicken begins to rage about our pending contract. We have language now for a contract, even though it's tentative because we haven't voted on it yet. In this Facebook group, we are talking about it. We have decided because there is no justice with regard to our Article 29 retrenchment, which allows professors to be retrenched. In my opinion, since I was retrenched, I would say that it allows professors to be retrenched without good reason, and that if we were a real union, we would go on strike on this issue alone. My other big issue is class size, because I have been punished for trying to get a job at a different university within the state system after I was retrenched from another one. And there are a number of older professors in music who were retrenched at the same time as I was, and I'm the only one left. They've been bullied into submission, and I feel like the Raging Chicken Press ought to cover this, and that we ought to get the word out before our contract is ratified, because right now, word on the street amongst my fellow APSCUF professors is that our contract, as it is tentatively spelled out, isn't too bad in terms of financials, in terms of health care, but we have some raging inequities in terms of how adjuncts are treated and other issues that I won't go into now. I don't want, mostly because I don't want to misrepresent them. I don't have as extensive of knowledge base on these issues as I need to talk about it. But I can say that the retrenchment language, the new retrenchment language, is weak tea, and there isn't anything that I've heard of that addresses class size. So I say for those two reasons alone, a real union, an active union that is concerned with justice and isn't in bed with the administration, would strike if it were only about those two issues. My problem is that I don't have very many followers on the Bernie or Bust television network. I don't have many. I don't have a lot of APSCUF rank and file ears on my message. But Raging Chicken does, and I think that Raging Chicken Press should cover this issue of injustice and inequity. And even though it doesn't affect a majority of members, that's what unions are supposed to be about. We're supposed to stick together for our brothers and sisters who are being oppressed. I've been a member of this union since 1996, and I haven't really seen that happening very much on behalf of the minority members of the union. I've seen it happen more in protecting the older members, the full professors, and the other members who are more mainstream in the union. I think the fringes and the people who are the most vulnerable haven't been protected well by the union. Our our record of grievances hasn't been very good. I won't bore you with all the details, but I'd say that we need the raging chicken to wade in here, if chickens can wade, and get this going. This is the kind of revolution I think we need. One of my students in a journal article said, this class, and the class in question is popular music, this class has definitely gotten interesting with all the disagreement and strife. While it can certainly be a bit uncomfortable at some points, I appreciate the fact that this class is a safe space for us to disagree with each other. I want that to be the first thing I say. Here's another student journal. I recently saw the Joker movie, and it got me thinking about some stuff you have been saying in class. I honestly believe that sooner or later there is going to be a revolution of lower-class Americans against the higher class. I hope it is not as violent as the movie was, but what revolution does not have violence? My girlfriend and I were discussing the fact that this country was founded on revolution and protests, but if you do it now, you are deemed a criminal. The British viewed the founding fathers as criminals, and now they are some of the most important historical figures for our nation. And I've gotten some good reactions to that comment. I think that union members need to act like our founding fathers. I think, as Ben Franklin said, if we don't hang together, most assuredly we'll hang separately. By the time the rank and file, the average member of the rank and file is harmed, there won't be anyone left to speak for them. I think we need to speak on behalf of the minorities who are being oppressed. Now, to pivot into the campaign, I want to make fun of Sadie Doyle, who says Bernie Sanders' ugly campaigning is bad for Democrats and great for Trump. This is just more vote blue finger wagging. It says here, I'll show you the whole article so you can read it yourself, by Sadie Doyle. How much damage exactly did Bernie Sanders do in 2016? That question has become nearly untouchable thanks to Sanders' passionate boosters in the media, not to mention, RIP, my mentions, his dedicated social media fan base. You can count me in that fan base, Sadie. And so Sadie tips a hat to Sanders' run, done a lot of good by mainstreaming socialist ideals and class consciousness, student loan forgiveness, free college, universal health care, Green New Deal, universal basic income. Okay, good. Check. But then they're talking about the study in 2017, and I'm so glad they are. 1 in 10 Sanders supporters, enough to swing the election, switched their support to Trump. And then there's a little high chair banging here. Oh no, these people are crazy. Why? How could you vote for Trump and not Hillary? And it says that Sanders supporters were voting not for him, but against Hillary. What we're not saying here is that we're also voting against, not me in particular, but these voters are also voting against neoliberalism. That's the part Sadie is leaving out. And if you bump into this argument on the street, that Sanders supporters passionately voting against any Democrat other than Bernie Sanders in the general election, what you're seeing here is the passion not just against Hillary Clinton and the Clinton machine, which is justifiable, but against any neoliberal candidate. And we have, and if you've been watching this show, lots of proof that Elizabeth Warren is a neoliberal candidate, as dangerous, nearly so, as Hillary Clinton. And so what we've got to say is we won't buy this argument. What the good part about this argument goes on to talk about Beto and Betomania and other. The point of this article is to get us to fall in line if they anoint Elizabeth Warren. Nobody else is going to get it. Beto's not going to get it. There's no point in talking about Kamala or even Joe Biden anymore. It's going to be whether people have awakened to this fact. It's going to be Elizabeth Warren. And this is a kind of a sneaky way to say we need to vote for Elizabeth after they steal it from Bernie again. Go ahead and read it and come to your own conclusions. But this is just vote shaming, this article. And this kind of article is popping out more and more now. It's becoming almost rampant. So I want Sadie to know. I want to put Sadie on notice that we're onto you. We know what's going on, and we're not rabid, sexist, Russian assets or whatever. You didn't actually say that, but you're kind of sneakily alluding to that. This is a smear article on your part, and it's not going to work. There are too many people who have been hurting for too long to vote for any Democratic candidate other than Bernie Sanders. If you don't like it, lump it. Either get on board the Bernie or bust train, or you got Trump. It's just the way it is. And we've got an alarming number of Americans are worse off than their parents, and we're not talking about it enough. Business Insider, this is a good article. The sharp and steady increase in U.S. inequality in recent decades has been well documented. And what they're saying is that social mobility is hurt because of income inequality. One of the most notable changes in the U.S. economy in recent decades has been the rise in inequality. And there's a key inflection point in inequality at around the time of 1980. And you can really see this in the trucking industry, which I've followed for a few years now. And it isn't just trucking, but that's a harbinger. Trucking is probably the biggest job in the United States, other than working at Walmart and Target and Amazon and so forth. So you can use, as a bellwether, you can use the trucking industry. So we have an unequal society that, with the inflection point in 1980, and concerns about a possible decline in inequality of opportunity have arisen. So we want in this country to give an opportunity to anybody who's clever and industrious. We want people to have an opportunity to succeed. That's a huge part of the American dream, and it always has been. But what we have is inequality that leads to social mobility declining. To better understand inequality of opportunity, economists and other social scientists have increasingly focused attention on studies of intergenerational mobility. So when kids have a lower standard of living than their parents, that's a huge warning flag. And these studies typically estimate the strength between parent income and the income of their offspring when they grow up. So if inequality doesn't bother you, but inequality of opportunity bothers you, and it absolutely should, no matter what political stripe you are, that's still going up now. And that's why we can't vote for Hillary or any Hillary superdelegates from last time. We can't vote for anybody who is going to perpetuate inequality of opportunity. And that's a good phrase to be bandying about here in our political discussions. Pop song professor, I'll skip past that unless you're really, really interested. And Michael Moore, why I support Bernie over Warren. Michael Moore and Nina Turner both are coming out of the woodwork now, coming out from, the gloves are off. They're coming out from behind the curtain of being nice to Elizabeth Warren. And both Michael Moore and Nina Turner are very close to the center of the Bernie camp. So they're not speaking for Bernie exactly, but if Nina Turner comes out and pulverizes Elizabeth Warren without mentioning her name for 6 minutes, you know the gloves are off. And because I keep hearing, well, if you're really wanting to do what Bernie says, you'll get herded into the Democratic fold and you'll support the Democratic candidate. I don't think Bernie really wants us to do that. I think he's made a deal with the devil and he has to say that. But I think if you really want to combat that argument, Nina Turner, if she's not speaking for Bernie, I don't know who is. And she comes out and pulverizes Elizabeth Warren for 6 minutes. And then I'll close with what Michael Moore says on The Hill Rising. Sogar and Crystal Ball are interviewing him here.
But there is a difference, and I think the difference isn't...
The difference between Bernie and Elizabeth Warren.
Well, let me just say personally, the difference for me is Elizabeth says that she is a capitalist to her bones. That's her quote. And I'm not. And I think that this is an economic system that has caused great harm. It's unfair, it's unjust, it's not democratic, it's cruel. People who call themselves capitalists, I think maybe they're thinking of the old school capitalism from 100 or 200 years ago. I think the early thinkers of capitalism, the Adam Smiths, were very clear that capitalism wouldn't survive if it didn't have a mechanism to help those who didn't succeed. If you leave those in the...
That's the main point I wanted you to get, and that'll pivot me back to Kevin Mahoney in the Raging Chicken Press. If you want to help the people who haven't been treated as well, like people who were retrenched because bean counters are running education now, neoliberals are running education now, if you're really a progressive outlet, Raging Chicken Press, I think you'll want to do what unions all over our country need to do and come out in support of the minorities of workers who don't have a voice otherwise. And that's me. I don't pretend that the Bernie or Bust television network is raging in terms of numbers. So until that happens, we could really use some help. AppScuff retrenchees, AppScuff, not just adjuncts, but also assistant professors, those lower down on the pecking order. They could use some more help, I think, from any kind of a voice that can be heard over the barnyard noises. So please, Raging Chicken Press, wade in here, and every other union, the Sarah Nelson, the flight attendants union, and nurses, and the other unions that have the courage to say enough is enough. We need to stand up for our weaker members. We need to stand up for those who don't have a voice. All of us union people, all of us who think that way, whether we're in unions or not, we need to stand up together, and we need to get the word out. So please, if you're watching this, put this message to Kevin, put this message to any other union leaders, any other union powerful people that we really need to keep on burning, locally and globally. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Get on board the Bernie or Bust train. Come get on board the Bernie or Bust train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Go get on board